Hello and welcome to our 41st session wherein we are going to improve our tilting island game by adding some special features, and these are little complicated or you may feel it a little bit difficult in the beginning, but as you explore it you will start understanding these concepts better. Now the first feature that we are going to add to our tilting island game is, so if you come here right now you were seeing only one type of enemy. You have different sizes of enemies and I can actually destroy them like this. This is one feature. Now the next feature that I want to show is, if I restart the game, when you are having this power up, you have two types of power up. So these are the two concepts that we are going to implement in this session. So let us start working on it one by one. Launch Unity Hub. Now coming to project, and you can start with this tilting_island 8 project. If you doesn't have this previous project, then come into new project and in the template choose SRP Universal 3D, and in project name I am going to call this as Tilting Island 09, and in eUnity project I will click on create project. Now as the project is getting loaded, come into the YouTube video page or in the e-learning page, scroll down and here in the description click on more. You are provided with a Patreon link. Click on this Patreon link. Come to the Junior Programmer Series Patreon page, and if you scroll down, you are provided with this file 41 Tilting Island Challenge Start Unity package. Click on this to download it. If you want the layout file, click on the satvik_layout.wlt to download it. Once Unity is launched, come into this project panel and you have this readme file. Select it, come into the inspector and click on remove readme asset. And in the confirmation page, click on proceed. We also don't need this input system_actions file. You can right click and choose delete. And in the confirmation page, click on delete. If your screen layout doesn't match the layout that you are seeing here, on the right hand corner you can come into this layout panel and choose Satvik. If Satvik layout is not present, come into load layout from file. Come to the download folder, select satvik_layout.wlt file and click on open. Your layout will match the layout shown on this video. Now come into the project, asset, right click and choose import package custom package. Come into the download folder and select the 41 Tilting Island Challenge Start Unity package which you downloaded just now. Click on open. And in the import Unity package dialog box, see that all is selected and click on the import button. Once it is imported, come into the scenes and you have one tilting island scene here. Double click to open this. Then select sample scene, right click and choose delete and confirm the deletion. We are going to start working in this tilting_island scene. Coming into the project panel, my prefab, you can see here we have just one type of enemy. So instead of spanning every time the same enemy, we want to create different kind of enemies and span it. I will select this enemy, press F2 and I will rename this as enemy 1 and press enter. I will press Ctrl+D to duplicate it. Press F2 and I am going to rename this now as enemy 2. And for this enemy 2, selecting it, I will come into inspector and click on open to come into my prefab. I am going to open the course library and here you have textures. So I am now going to drag this texture_grid1 and attach it to this enemy 2. I will also come here into the inspector and in the scale with constraint proportion enabled, I will set its size to 1 and also set its attack speed to around 8. I will click on the left arrow to come out of this. Then I will come back to my project panel, select enemy 2, press Ctrl+D to duplicate it, press F2 and I will rename this as enemy 3. I will select enemy 3, come into inspector, open, and I am now going to drag texture grid 2 to this enemy 3, set its scale to around 1.7. In the attack speed, I will set it to 12 and press enter. I will come back to my prefab, select enemy 3, press Ctrl+D to duplicate it, press F2. I will call this as enemy 4. I will come here and click on open. Now enemy 4 is open. I will drag texture grid 3 onto this enemy 4. In scale, I will set it to 2 scroll down and I will set the attack speed to 20. Now finally, I select enemy 4, press Ctrl D, press F2. I will call this as enemy 5, press enter and select enemy 5, come into inspector, open, and I will drag texture grid 4 onto this enemy 5. I will come into scale and I will set its scale to around 0.7. Scroll down and attack speed I will keep it 6. I will click on the left arrow to come back to the scene. So now if I close the texture, I have 5 types of enemy defined here. So if I open this enemy panel, this is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Once our enemy prefabs are ready, then come here into the scripts folder and we are going to control this through this SpawnManager script. Double click to open this. We had declared a game object enemy prefab. After this type game object, I will add open close square brackets, and this now declares that enemy prefab is not just a single game object but it is an array. Then moving down, the enemy is spanned using the span enemy function. So I will come down here into span enemy and you have this for statement which loops the number of enemies spanned, and inside this I will press enter and now I am going to declare one integer and I will call this as random RND index and I will set it equal to, I will select a random range number and in open close bracket end it with semicolon, and now this is going to select from 0 and the maximum number will be my enemy prefab list length. So literally it means that it selects a random number between 0 and 5. Coming into instantiate, after this enemy prefab, I will add open close square bracket and inside this I will call this RND index, and similarly even in the rotation enemy prefab in open close square bracket I will call this RND index. Now I will go to file, save it. Now if you come back to Unity, once the script is compiled, come and select the SpawnManager and now you have a new parameter here, enemy prefab. If you open this, as of now number of enemy prefab is 0. I can click on plus here. This is the first element I have added to enemy prefab. I will drag enemy 1 and attach it to it. I will press plus again, drag enemy 2 and attach it to it. Press plus again, drag enemy 3 and attach it to it. Press plus again, drag enemy 4 and attach it to it. Press plus again and now I will drag enemy 5 and attach it to it. If I come to file, save it, and now if I execute the game and if I check it, see now you get different types of enemies spanned at different time. You are getting different size, different textured enemy. Stop the playback. Similar to enemies, we also want 2 types of power up. One type of power up is what we are using now. It will push the enemies with a greater force. So I select this power up, press F2 and I will call this as PowerUp Pushback. I will select this PowerUp Pushback, press Ctrl D to duplicate it. I will press F2 and the second type of PowerUp that I am going to use is PowerUpRocket. So this is going to FireRocket. Come here into inspector, I will open this, and if you come into your source files and in texture, you have a texture here, polygon prototype underscore texture 1. I will press Ctrl D to duplicate it, press F2 and I am going to call this as polygon prototype and I will call this as rocket. I will drag this polygon prototype rocket to my PowerUp rocket, and also selecting this, I will come here into inspector, mesh renderer, I will open materials. This is allotted with polygon prototype rocket. I will just click on this material you have this material selected in the materials now, double click to open it, and in the base color I will click here and choose, say for example, a different color. I will add a green color now. I will come to the top and click on the left, and now if I come here, close the course library, and if I select PowerUpRocket, the PowerUpRocket is in green color and PowerUp Pushback is in orange color. When I want to trigger this rocket, I have to press a key. Key pressing calls for input action. I will now come into player input action, double click to open it. We had added rotate action and move action, and now I will add a new action and I will call this as FireRocket, and the type of this will be a button. If I open this, in the binding, I will come into path, I will press keyboard, and in listen with shift F, if I type here to search, I get F keyboard. So I will select this F keyboard so that when F button is pressed, the firing is going to happen, and in interaction, I will click on plus and choose press, so that the triggering will be pressing this F button. I will close this FireRocket and I will come here and save this asset. Then close this. Coming back to my hierarchy here, I will right click and I am going to create a new 3D object sphere. And this is nothing but the rocket. So I will come into the scene and press F to see this rocket. I will temporarily select player and I will hide it so that I can see my rocket. Come into inspector and in transform right click and choose reset. And instead of sphere collider, I will come here on the right and I will remove the sphere collider component. I will come into add component, select collider, and I am going to add a capsule collider. With rocket selected, I will come into the inspector and I will scale it 0.2 along X, 0.2 along Y and 0.5 along Z. And I will come in the direction of this capsule collider now, and I will set it direction to Z axis. Now if I press F, Alt, left click and turn around, this is now fine. To span this rocket, when we press the fire F button, I am going to convert this into prefab. So I will drag this rocket from here into my prefabs folder. In the hierarchy, I will select it and delete it. Now I will come here, select the player and enable the player. And now if I press F, you are having the scene ready. Let us implement the gaming logic through the code. I will come into the project panel, script, right click, and I am going to create a new mono behavior script, and I will call this as PowerUp with P and U capital. Press enter and allow the script to compile. See that the public class PowerUp name here and the file name is the same. Now double click to open this in Visual Studio Code. Below this, using Unity engine line, I will press enter and I am now going to declare public and enumerator, and I am going to call this as PowerUpType. I will set this in open close flower bracket. Inside this, I am going to give 3 states to this PowerUp enumerator. The first state is none, comma, the second state is pushback, comma, and the third state is rocket. This is an enumerator which can be called by any script in this project, and we can actually assign it with 3 states: none, pushback and rocket. Now coming into this PowerUp mono behavior, I will select all the content inside this mono behavior class, both start and update. I will delete it. I am going to declare a new public variable, and the type of variable is PowerUpType. And I am going to call this again as PowerUpType, but the only difference is this time P is small letter, and I will end it with semicolon. I will come to file and save the script. Next, I will come back to Unity. Next, we are going to create another script for rocket behavior. In the scripts folder, I am going to now right click and I am going to create another mono behavior script, and I will call this as rocket behavior, and I select this rocket behavior script, allow the script to compile, and then see that the public class name here and the file name is the same. Then select the script and double click to open this. We are going to first declare certain variables. I will come into this public class rocket behavior script, and inside this open flower bracket, first going to declare a private variable. The type of this variable is transform, and I will call this as target and end it with semicolon. Then I will press enter, and I am going to call for private, and I will call this as float speed, and I will set its value to something like 15.0f and end it with semicolon. Third variable that I am going to declare here is, I will call for private, and this time I will declare a boolean variable. I will call this as homing, and I will end it with semicolon. I will press enter, and the fourth variable I am going to declare here is again a private variable. I will call this as float, and I will call this as rocket strength, and I will set its value also to be something like 15.0f and end it with semicolon. And the fifth variable I am going to declare is private float, and I am going to call this as alive timer, and I will set its value to 5 seconds, that is 5.0f, and end it with semicolon. I am also going to declare a new method. I am not using this start in this rocket behavior script, so I will select this void start part and I will delete it. I will also delete this start comment here. I will come below this update now, and I will press enter twice, and I am going to declare a new function here, public void, and I am going to call this as fire, and in open close bracket I will press enter and add open close flower bracket. Inside the flower bracket we will enter the code, but here for fire I am going to add a parameter which is a transform parameter, and I will call this as homing target. Inside this open close parenthesis, I will set the target equal to homing target, end it with semicolon. Then I will set the homing value to true, end it with semicolon, and then I am going to destroy, add open close bracket and end it with semicolon. And inside this I will call my game object, comma, and I am going to destroy it after my alive timer setting. One last thing here I have to do is, I will come into this update code block, press enter, and here I am going to test for a condition. If add open close bracket, homing is true, that is if the fire method is called and homing is set to true, and I will add 2 ampersand sign, and target value if it is not equal to null, then I will come out of this bracket, press enter, add open close flower bracket, and inside this flower bracket I am going to declare a new vector3 variable, and I will call this as move direction. Set it equal to target position, and I am going to subtract this by from my transform dot position. I will end it with semicolon. For better direction, I am going to select this entire target position code. I will add open close bracket around it, and for this entire value period I am going to call normalized and end it with semicolon. I am going to press enter, and then the transform dot position will now be equal to, I will add plus equal to move direction, that is coming from the above, and I am going to multiply this value by speed, and I will also multiply it by time dot delta time and end it with semicolon. Finally, I will call my transform. You have a component called as lookat. I will add open close bracket and end it with semicolon, and it lookat target will be the target that we have attached in our fire function. And finally, in this RocketBehaviour.cs script, I will come down and after this public void fire function, after this closing flower bracket, press enter twice, I will call on collision enter. So I will call this function. This is a built-in function. Add a parameter called as collision, and here I am going to call this in short as call. Coming into this code block, when our rocket goes and collides with any of the object, if I will add open close bracket, and inside this the target I will add a exclamatory mark and equals to indicate that it is not null. If target is not null, then I will press enter, add open close flower bracket, and inside this flower bracket I will test for one more condition, add open close bracket, and here call collision object period, this game object I will call it. I am going to compare its tag. I will add open close bracket, and inside this the tag that I am going to test is my target dot tag. Usually it will be the enemy target. Press enter, add open close flower bracket, and inside this flower bracket I am now going to call rigid body, a new variable of type rigid body, and I will call this as target rigid body, and I will set it equal to my collision game object period. I will get component lesser than greater than sign, add open close brackets and end it with semicolon, and inside this lesser than and greater than sign I will call my component rigid body. I will press enter, vector 3, another variable, I will call it as away, and I will make it equal to minus my collision object, and you have a method here called as contact, and this is an array of all the contact points where the collision has happened. I will add open close bracket, and I will take the first collision point which is represented by 0. Then I am going to set its normal and end it with semicolon. So this is the direction in which the collision is now supposed to push the object. Then call my target rigid body, and for it I am going to add force, add open close bracket and end it with semicolon. The direction of this force is coming from this vector 3 away, and I am going to multiply it by the variable I have declared, rocket strength, and I will set the force mode to impulse. I will press enter and I will destroy the game object. This rocket will be destroyed, and I will end it with semicolon. I will come to file and save this. So this completes our rocket behavior script. So now I will come back to Unity. I am going to open my PlayerController.cs file, and I will double click to open it. In this player control, I have to declare 4 more variables. I will come after this line number 22, public game object PowerUp indicator. All these are related to PowerUp. I will press enter. I will declare another public PowerUpType, and I will call this as current PowerUp, and I am going to set it equal to PowerUpType period none. Here I have to add a equal sign. So you will notice that we are using the PowerUp enumerator here. This is used to help to determine which logic to enable for the player when the PowerUp is collected. We are going to declare 2 game objects. The first game object I will make it public, and the type of this variable is game object, and I am going to call this as RocketPrefab and end it with semicolon. I will press enter, and I will declare another game object as a private game object, and I will call this as TMP-Rocket. So the public one is used for homing rocket prefab. The private one will be used for spanning the homing rockets. Finally, I will declare another private, and the type of this variable is coroutine. We had discussed about this in our previous session, and we will call this as PowerUp countdown and end it with semicolon. With these 4 variables declared, I will next move down to on trigger enter. We have to now add a new logic here. If you come in contact with PowerUp, has PowerUp will be set to true. I have to now set my current PowerUp value equal to other game object get component in lesser than greater than sign. This is attached with a component called PowerUp. I will come out, add open close bracket. In this component, we are going to select PowerUpType. Attach this current PowerUp, the value of PowerUpType, whether it has pushback or rocket. I will come down on this destroy game object. Below this, put a condition here. If add open close bracket, if PowerUp countdown is not equal to null, I will come out of this bracket. Then I will press enter, add open close flower bracket, and inside this flower bracket, I am now going to stop coroutine, and in open close bracket, inside this, I am now going to call this PowerUp countdown, and I will end this with semicolon. Come here, and instead of this start coroutine running it directly, I will call the variable PowerUp countdown and set its value equal to start coroutine, and in open close bracket inside this I am now going to call my PowerUp coroutine, which we had declared it last time. Add it open close bracket, finally end it with semicolon equal to this start coroutine. So now these lines are added in on trigger enter. Now if you scroll down, in our previous session we had declared this PowerUp countdown routine. Given a wait period of 7 seconds, has PowerUp is set to false, I have to change my current PowerUp value. It will be equal to, I will call this PowerUpType will be set to none and end it with semicolon. So this one line I have to add it in PowerUp countdown routine. I am now going to come here into on collision enter, and here we were testing the condition here. Whatever code I have written here, this holds good when the current PowerUp is pushback. So I will remove this has PowerUp. Instead of that, current PowerUp is equal to PowerUpType, set this to pushback. Equal, actually I have to add two equal signs because this is not assignment but this is comparison. All this will remain the same, but only thing is instead of has PowerUp, I am going to call current PowerUp to string because I have to convert it into a string to put it in debug log. I will add open close bracket and end there. Below on collision enter now, declare a new method and I am going to call this as void LaunchRockets, add open close bracket, and inside this I will add open close flower bracket. And coming inside this flower bracket, now here we are going to use a different kind of loop which we will discuss it later, and we call this as for each, and add open close bracket, and inside this we are going to loop through an array of objects, and the array of object we are going to get it from find objects by type, and I will add less than and greater than sign, and inside this the type will be enemy. It is going to get all enemy type objects here. I will add open close bracket, come inside this bracket, and I will call this find object sort mode. I will set it to none. And for every object here, I will declare a variable and I will call this as enemy. For every here after in, I have to type a space, add open close flower bracket, and inside this flower bracket, I am now going to call my enemyPrefab, set this equal to my instantiated game object, add open close bracket and end it with semicolon. I am now going to instantiate my rocket prefab that we created, and I will set its transform position to the current position, and I am going to add it with vector 3 period up so that it is projected from the top of my player, add comma. Then for rotation, I will call this function quaternion identity, and then I will come out and end it with semicolon. Then I will press enter, and in this TMP rocket, I am going to get the component in lesser than greater than sign. We have declared the script rocket behavior. This we are going to later on add it to our component, this rocket, and then I will come out of this greater than sign, add open close bracket, period. I will call the fire function, and in open close bracket end it with semicolon, and inside this I am now going to call enemy period transform, and I will end this with semicolon. This is going to now launch the continuous rockets or missiles towards my enemy. We are using the same logic as our SpawnManager to find all the enemies. We are then launching our missile at each one. We launch the missile from above the player. So we are using vector 3 up to stop the collision from pushing us back. One last thing here is, once the user presses F key when PowerUp rocket is enabled, the missiles should launch and it should strike the enemy. Below this launch rocket, I will press enter and I am going to declare one more private function. It is a void function, and I am going to call this as OnFireRocket, add open close bracket, and inside this I am now going to call my input action and period callback context. So this is a standard line that we usually use in the new input system, and then I am going to press enter, add open close flower brackets, and inside this open close flower bracket I am just going to test for a condition. If add open close bracket current PowerUp is equal to, I will add two equal signs, PowerUpType rockets, then press enter, add open close flower bracket. I am now going to call the above function LaunchRockets, open close bracket and semicolon. Where are we going to call this OnFireRocket? We have already enabled our move input action. It is equal to the new player input action, and here in the OnEnable function, come below these three lines, and in move input action period player, we had created a new action called as FireRocket, and I will call this perform, and when it is perform, I want it to be plus equal to. Now I am going to call this function OnFireRocket. One mistake is this is plus equals. Here in disable, I am now going to call my move input action period player, call this FireRocket. I will call this perform, and this will be now equal to minus equal to, and I am going to set it to OnFireRocket and end it with semicolon. And also I want this move input actions period player, and in that I will select this FireRocket period. I am going to disable it, add open close bracket and end it with semicolon, and I am going to save it. Now I am seeing some error in rocket behavior. So if I come here, see in this void fire, I have already declared it. Delete these two references. So I will come to file and save it. Accidentally two other methods had got added, so I will just save it. So now player control CS also there is no error. I will save this. Now I will come to SpawnManager.cs. Since we have two power-ups now, I have to come up to the top, and we have declared this PowerUpPrefab. I am going to convert this into an array. Add open close square bracket. This PowerUpPrefab is called through a function called SpawnPowerUp. So I will scroll down to SpawnPowerUp. See, it is here. I will press enter. I am going to declare an integer as random index, and I will set its value equal to random.range, add open close bracket, and this range will be between 0 and PowerUpPrefab period length, because this has been now converted into an array, and end it with semicolon. In the instantiation now, in PowerUpPrefab, I have to now add open close bracket, and inside this I have to call this random index, and similarly even in the rotation I will add open close square bracket, and inside this I will call this random index. I will go to File and save this. I will come back to Unity, and once the script is compiled, I will first come into this PowerUp Pushback. In the inspector, I will click on Open. Selecting this prefab, I will come into Add Component, and now I am going to call this PowerUp Enumerator. And in this enumerator for Pushback, I am going to select Pushback. Then I will come to the top, click on this arrow to come back to the hierarchy. Then I will again come into my prefab and I will select PowerUpRocket. Come into inspector, click on Open. Select this PowerUpRocket, and in the inspector, click on Add Component PowerUp. And now for this in PowerUpType, I will select Rockets and I will click on this arrow and come back to the main scene. Now finally here I will select the rocket, come into the inspector and open this. Select the rocket and come into Add Component, and for this I will add the RocketBehaviour script. Now I will click on the arrow and come back. Next here I will come into the SpawnManager. Along with this enemyPrefab created earlier, you also have PowerUpPrefab array here. I will open it, click on plus and add one array element, and here I will drag PowerUp Pushback and attach it. I will click on plus and add one more element, and here I will drag PowerUpRocket and I am going to attach it. Finally select the player, and in the inspector if you scroll down you have player control script, and now we have a new parameter here set as RocketPrefab. So in the project panel, I will drag my rocket and attach it in this RocketPrefab. Now finally I will come to File, save it. I will now play the game and check it. So once the game starts, now I will pick up the prefab rocket, and if I press F, nothing is happening. There is some bug here. Let us check it. I will stop the playback. If I now come into the player control script, the issue we have is here in OnEnable, we have not enabled the FireRocket action. So I have to press enter here, add move input action, period, call the player, and I have to now call this FireRocket and I have to enable it. Add open close bracket and end it with semicolon. Now I will come to File, save this, come into Unity, allow the script to compile. If I play the game and check it, so now you have the prefab pushback, and if I select it, you can see all are pushed out, and I will select this prefab, and if I press F, you can now see the missiles are fired and our enemy object are pushed out. So now I will stop the playback and come to File and save it. So with this, we have successfully added the rocket missile firing power up. With this, I will conclude this session, and in our next session, we are going to address few more challenges and add a few more features to this tilting island game.